Hey, hi all. Welcome back to the Error Knowledge Center. In this session, we'll see a K6 load testing continuation. How to run a K6 load testing with scenario-based scripting. So K6 Grafana load testing is open source where we can install the K6 and then you start writing of your script using JavaScript and then you run using K6 command line interfaces. Let me quickly get into my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to create a kind of a new file here that is a scenario or scenario based .js. So same thing we have to give it here, importing HTTP from K6 HTTP, and then I think obviously we need a sleep. If you want this, you can use it. Otherwise, leave it this from K6. Okay. And here, as I mentioned, we have two sections. One is options and default. But this time, when you write a script for scenario based, nothing but scenario based means. So when you look at the live environment, so users or the client is basically using different scenarios. Like one is login and then patient search and then opening of a specific module like registration module or then user preferences and then coming out of your website. This is one scenario for kind of example for scenario based. Similarly, I think if you take another scenario like when the users want to book an appointment for the clinician. So basically, they need to start with the login. Then login is the first thing, and then they have to navigate through a dashboard of a patient details or summary, and then from there they usually navigate to appointment scheduler screens, and then they look at the available slots or available timings for that particular clinic calculation, and then they have to start booking of slot or appointment to that specific clinic or specific hospital by choosing relevant clinician. So this is one scenario. Similarly, other scenarios. So if you wanted to write kind of scenarios and run through K6, so how you are going to do that? Now here I'm just a simple scenario I'm going to write here, and in my case like export constant because my scenario is constant here. So options here. So here I'm going to define my scenario. So I can say like scenarios, and then my first scenario is as I mentioned, this is something first scenario, uh, right? In the first scenario, I'm going to say that my scenario capture scripts was there in test one, right? I'm going to define this function after writing its options and the executor. This is another I think attribute you need to specify, that is constant virtual users, right? Because scenario must be constant. So and virtual user count again one or two you have to give it, and again duration. So you can give it as usual 1 second or 2 seconds, right? This is the first scenario I'm going to define it. And if you want to define another scenario, you can write it after this. So for now, this is one scenario. Let's see like how it is going to execute. So for this, instead of writing export default, right, we need to write it here. Executor was no executor. No, sorry, executed function was test one. So you can say test one, right? Export function test one, right? So here I'm going to write my get function. So as similar like you can copy this and use that here also, right? So again, sleep command to capture responses. You mentioned this 1 second. This is one scenario. So in the scenarios, I was mentioned first scenario. Let us say you can say that is a login scenario in your case, if you want. And this scenario having a function called test one and executor constant virtual user count. and virtual users count is 1 and duration is 1 second. So after saving this, going to your terminal and run through K6 command, simply K6 run demo scenario base.js. So when you run through, you can see here, finding this here, you can see scenarios. So one scenario, that is first scenario, one looping virtual users for 1 second. So executor, executed function was just one, and grace could stop with 30 seconds. So, and other field values, as usual, you can see here like data received, data sent, and etc. And at the top and the bottom also you can see like first scenario was ran successfully of one virtual users and 1 second running 0.5 second and 0 for one virtual users and one complete and one interrupted iterations. So here iterations one because you ran through 1 second and you mentioned one. If I say 2 seconds, it would be different, right? So when you look at here in the two scenarios, here you can see two iterations. And if you wanted to specify iterations count also, I think there is a provision here to specify uh, iteration iterations. I think I can say 10 if I say that. The 5 seconds, we want to run 10 iterations. It's not like that. So there's unknown keyword iterations. Iteration. See that? No. So that command. Iterations or iteration. Okay. You can see that. I think it's iterations. I think 100 iterations are mentioned. Okay, you can remove that time and you just specify the iterations and run through. Okay, could not load JS test known field iterations. Why so? Mm, execute or execute iterations. Okay, and the constant, I think we cannot mention that. I think we have to give a different uh, name. So we have mentioned that the executor was something constant virtual user count. So we have to specify per virtual user iterations in this case. So what we need to do is we need to change this. Otherwise, we'll create another iteration on the scenario and then mention that stuff. Okay. So this is first scenario I mentioned created here, and I'm going to create another scenario, second scenario. Right, first scenario or second scenario, whatever it is. And then here I mentioned this execute is test2. So I'm going to define that. And executor for this, I think you have to go per virtual user iterations so that you'll have right to give iterations. Okay. And now I'm going to specify iterations 10. Okay, that's it. So when I run this, I got a problem. Yeah, this test two we have to define. So I'm going to define another test definition here. That is test two, right? I'm going to do the same thing here for the demonstration, and then the real scenario, I think you have to specify the relevant script. When I run through the SK6 run command, so what it is happening is first scenario, one looping virtual user for 1 second. You have 10 iterations for each of one virtual user. Maximum duration 10 minutes, because I will mention it here duration part, as it is assuming 10 minutes time. If you look at here, iterations 11. So this is 10 iterations second, and first one is one iteration, right? So 10 plus 1, 11 iterations. And looking at this user count is one only we are mentioned here, and even max users you can see at 2 because first scenario one user, second scenario one user. And here you can see first scenario was one virtual user 1 second, and for the second scenario one virtual user, 12.4 seconds. and 10 iterations and 10 for one virtual user. So because I mentioned 10 iterations, so definitely it will send to 10 requests to the web server. Okay, so there's something you need to mention, different scenarios. If you're run through this scenario-based load testing, and you define it whatever you think. So today it is login, and tomorrow it is something MDI, and I may define another scenario which is patient such, and this is something another scenario, which is no registration, right? And another thing I will be a log off. So, so many things you can write in this way. Scenarios you have mentioned. This is scenario based load testing, how it is going to specify in each individual configurations and run through your cases. So if I run this, it is going to start running all iterations, logging log of MDA patients registration. So and then it gives you the complete results. It's on the dashboard. So yep, login, log off, etc., etc. Okay, there's something interesting and fun in doing that. So I think you guys can try this, like putting scenarios. I think this individual function also definitely have different scripts to be included here, not a same script here, and then you'll see different stats here. Okay. So I hope you understand like how to define the scenario-based load testing script and run through K6 Grafana open source. Okay. Thanks for listening to this video and please subscribe this channel for more videos. Thank you.